They say children learn by watching, but what happens when what they're watching is a screen? Across India, children under 5 are spending over 2 hours a day staring into phones, tablets and televisions, twice the safe limit recommended by World Health Organization. And India's not alone. From the United States of America to China, from Canada to Brazil, early childhood is increasingly filtered through a backlit glow. But as the screen time goes up, something else is quietly going down. Cognitive growth, language skills, attention spans, emotional regulation, even sleep. So is screen time quietly rewiring the minds of our youngest generation, and are we too distracted to notice? And now a growing chorus of scientists, doctors and educators say we are facing a global developmental emergency. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. This is not a story about parenting choices. It's a story about power, of technology over biology. It's about how devices designed for convenience and entertainment have begun to shape the very wiring of a developing brain. And it starts early, shockingly early. A new study from India shows that children under 5 now average 2.2 hours a day of screen time. That's nearly double the maximum limit recommended by WHO for kids aged 3 to 4. And for children under 2, WHO recommends zero screen time. But in India, doctors estimate that 60 to 70% of young children regularly exceed all safe limits. Let that sink in. Toddlers, barely learning to speak, are spending more time watching YouTube than they're playing outside or speaking with family. But this isn't just an Indian problem. It's a global pattern. Let's take a look at the numbers. In the United States of America, children aged 2 to 5 average 2.5 hours of screen time every day. For older kids, it jumps to nearly 4.5 hours. In China, screen time for children aged 6 to 14 averages 2.75 hours a day. In Japan, it's 2.6. In France, 1.75. In Australia, around 1.5. And in country after country, the data tells the same story. As the screen time rises, so do the risks. In the US, nearly 1 in 6 children aged 3 to 17 now live with some form of developmental delay or disability. In India, over 43% of children under 5 are at risk of developmental delay, according to UNICEF. This is not a statistical anomaly. This is a silent epidemic. So what's happening here? What is it about screen that's doing so much damage to such young minds? The answer, experts say, lies in what screens replace. In the first few years of life, a child's brain undergoes extraordinary growth.
Well, if you're giving a screen to your child when they are a toddler and you're trying to take it away from them, they'll show the withdrawal symptoms that very moment. So some people who are giving phone or screen time to their kids, for example on television or a laptop or a tab, and if that child is not given screen time, then the child perhaps will start throwing tantrums. So it's absolutely unbelievable how a child has not even said the first words, but the tantrums will be thrown by that child. And we see this in many kids, sometimes even below the age of 1, that when the screen is taken away, they start to throw tantrums. So throwing tantrums is normal with kids when it comes to other issues, when they want something and it's not given to them. But in this case, there will be desperate attempts to register a protest, and that is going to be on display really. And as far as reversible is concerned, screen time being, or the withdrawal symptoms being reversible, the damage rather being reversible is concerned, it is very, very reversible. In my own case, I'll give you an example. During a little before COVID-19, when my daughter was round about 3 years old, I had this thing about feeding her, and I would give her a lot of screen time while feeding her so that somehow I would end up feeding her more than what she'd actually want. The thing is that this was extremely unhealthy. Mindful eating for everyone is very important, more so for kids. So if your child is supposed to be having at least 2 chapatis but is having 1 chapati without screen time, you should prefer that over giving 2 or 3 chapatis with screen time.
Neural pathways explode. Synapses form at a rate of 1 million per second. And the most critical fuel for that growth is interaction with people, with the physical world, with touch, sound, smell, and language. Screens offer none of that. What they offer instead is passive visual stimulation, rapid scene changes, artificial lights, and instant gratification. When a child stares at a screen, they're not engaging the parts of the brain that support empathy, patience, creativity, or problem solving. They're not negotiating with peers, not listening to nuanced voices, not reading emotions. They're just watching. And this is where the crisis begins. A major meta-analysis covering 10 separate studies and over 2,800 children found that excessive screen time is directly linked to slower cognitive development, language delays, and poor social skills. The younger the child, the stronger the impact. In Canada, a study of preschoolers found that children who had more screen time had worse working memory and lower executive functioning, the brain's control panel for attention, self-control, and flexibility. In China, a 2025 study of infants as young as 6 months old found that every exposure to screens was linked to motor developmental delays, the very ability to crawl, grasp, and move.
So screen time use in parents many times is inevitable. I mean, look at our jobs. We need to be connected all the time. So to say that the parents should stop using the screen in front of children may or may not be very doable for most parents. The fact is that children are like sponges. They absorb everything that is told to them, or whatever is on display is what they pick up. They mimic you in a sense, They try to follow you, they try to imitate you in that sense. Hence, if parents are all the time doing this on their phones, constantly, I mean, you're not even making eye contact while talking to the next person. It's terrible. That's what your child is going to end up doing. So stop doing that. First of all, conscious use is extremely important. Conscious use is very important. Tell yourself the very moment that you pick up the phone, why am I picking the phone? Is it to log on to Instagram, go to Instagram and check out some reels? Is it mindless scrolling? Or have I picked it up for some reason? So you should begin there. Also, what's really worked in my case is having media-free rooms in the house. While sleeping or in the bedroom, do not have television sets. I don't in my house. Also, it always works when one person is checking the other. So check and balance there in that case also. Check the other parent if this is happening. If one parent is using the phone constantly, the other one checks. Do not use the phone constantly in front of the child. There is something that needs to be done. Just draw a line for yourself and draw a line for your family that this is something that we can do and this is something that we won't do. For example, in my case, certainly no screen time during meals. Touching the phone and looking into the screen is not allowed. If my child wants screen time, which is once in a while affair, like once in 10 days, then look at the television. That also helps with your eyesight in that sense. So draw these lines at home, make screen-free zones in the house, make sure that when you have off time, you're spending it doing things outside your home, in the nature, whenever the weather and everything else permits. Remember that there is a problem of nature deficit as well. It's called the nature deficit syndrome, where children are not getting nature time. So ensure that you're not just lecturing kids, hey, don't use the phone or don't watch too much TV. You should set an example, and that's how things move forward.
In India, the numbers are even more alarming. Doctors report that children using screens for more than 2 hours a day are 7.7 times more likely to exhibit ADHD-like symptoms, inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity. These aren't just small lags, they're structural changes, and they come with long-term consequences. Let's break down the impact. First, language skills. Screens don't talk back, so toddlers glued to screens often learn fewer words. They're slow to construct sentences. Studies show reduced school readiness and even impaired reading comprehension later in life. Second, executive function. Apps designed for toddlers may look educational, but research shows that such 30 minutes a day of mobile app use can reduce impulse control in children within a year. Third, problem solving. Children who spend more time on screens tend to struggle more with tasks that require persistence, creativity, or trial and error. They're less likely to explore or take initiative. Fourth, and most importantly, sleep. Blue light from screens disrupts melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep. Kids exposed to screens before bed often sleep later, wake more, and feel groggier during the day. And fifth, mental health. Anxiety and depression rates are now rising in adolescents across the world. Multiple studies link moderate to high screen time with higher risk of depression, increased anxiety, and greater emotional volatility. This is not hypothetical, this is measurable. Widespread damage happening every day to millions of children. So why are parents allowing this? In most cases, not because they want to, but because they feel they have no choice. In busy households, especially post-pandemic, screens have become a convenient digital babysitter. In cities with limited green space, screens fill in for outdoor play. In households where both parents work, screens offer quiet time. But convenience comes at a cost, and that cost is mounting. The real problem isn't just how long children spend on screens. It's what they miss out on while staring at them. Face-to-face conversations, hands-on play, nature walks, problem-solving games, physical movement, bonding with caregivers. It's a problem of displacement, of substitution, of a shrinking childhood. But the impact of screen time goes beyond homes and families. It has policy implications, and around the world, governments are beginning to respond, some boldly, others cautiously. Let's look at how different countries are approaching this crisis. In India, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics recommends zero screen time under age 2. For older children, the message is clear: supervised, limited use only. But there is no national policy to enforce limits. Some schools promote digital literacy and awareness campaigns, but large-scale regulation is still missing. In China, the approach is far more aggressive. In 2023, Beijing rolled out mandatory minor mode settings across all mobile platforms. Under this system, children under 8 are automatically limited to 40 minutes a day. Teenagers under 16, just 1 hour. And screens shut down entirely between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. This isn't voluntary. It's baked into devices, apps, and app stores. And it's synced across accounts. China's message is blunt: control the screen, or the screen will control you. In South Korea, a law known as the Cinderella Law bans children under 16 from playing online games past midnight. In the United States of America, the Kids Online Safety Act passed the Senate in 2024. It mandates digital safeguards for minors, but stops short of imposing screen time caps. And in Europe, the 2022 Digital Wellbeing Act requires apps to implement cooling off periods after extended use, nudging users to pause, reflect, and disengage. These policies reflect a growing awareness. Childhood is under pressure, and protecting it will require more than parental guidance. It will require collective action. But policy is only one part of the solution. The deeper challenge is cultural. Today, children are born into a world where screens are everywhere, in bedrooms, in classrooms, in cars, at meal times, even in strollers. They're taught to swipe before they speak, to click before they crawl, to binge before they build. The result? A generation growing up in what some experts call a digital habitat, a world where the digital isn't just a tool, it's the environment itself. And this habitat is shaping not just how children play, but how they think, learn, feel, and relate to others. So what can be done? Experts offer a few key strategies. First, delay exposure. The longer you wait to introduce screens, the better. Zero screen time before age 2. Minimal use after that. Second, co-view. Don't coexist. If a child must use a screen, make it interactive. Watch together. Talk about what you see. Turn passive watching into active engagement.
To build social ties, to make sure the child is eating right, there is mindful eating. In a social setup, the children will end up being awkward, will not end up building relationships if you give the phone to the child. So when you are eating outside or even at home, certainly ensure that the focus is on the food. You eating food or basically sometimes even using your hands to eat is a very sensory experience. You should ensure that your child gets that sensory experience, understands the benefit of eating, understands the value of the food that has been put on the table. Mindful eating is very, very important, and that's the reason why parents should absolutely stop giving screens to their kids while having food.
Third, create screen-free zones. No screens during meals. No screens in bedrooms. No screens as emotional pacifiers. Fourth, prioritize real-world play. Encourage outdoor activity, storytelling, music, art, puzzles, physical games. These are not luxuries, they are neurological necessities. And finally, model good behavior. Children learn by watching. If adults are glued to phones, children will be too. The question is not whether technology should be part of childhood. It already is. The real question is how much, how soon, and under what conditions. Because the science is clear. Early years matter. And the brain is not just watching a screen, it's being shaped by it. Let's be blunt. No app, no cartoon, no YouTube video, no tablet game can replace the complexity of a real human voice, the warmth of a hug, the unpredictability of physical play, or the magic of imagination.
If I talk about one habit which I believe families should change today, so it is more mindfulness with the screen-free zone. And that screen-free zone should be selected during the family meal time, family time, or before bed. So you can use some storytelling, some board games, or when you are having meal together as a family. There should be strictly no use of the screen, no matter it is work related, it is family related, or whatsoever it is. But that is one habit which we all need to increase in our daily routine. It will establish boundaries. It will also model that self-regulation. When a child will see that self-regulation in the parents, definitely they will also encourage for the real world connection. They will also come on that habit. This real conversations are more important rather than the screen.
We are at a crossroads. If we continue down this path of silence, inaction, and passive consumption, we risk raising a generation whose minds were shaped not by curiosity and connection, but by convenience and code. But if we act, if families, schools, governments, and industries take this seriously, we can still course correct. We can unplug, step outside, and rediscover the world beyond the screen. The child of the future is already here, but their world is being shaped by what we allow and what we ignore today. Let's not trade early potential for digital distraction, because in the end, this is not just about screens, it's about what it means to be human, to grow, to learn, to connect, and to remember that childhood was never meant to be swiped through. Thank you for watching Statecraft.